Dale will occasionally eat some. I need to find the picture of him
choice
eating
things before
a chicken
some races.
biscuit sandwich. I need to find that, and I'll try to throw it.
I think I was second that year.
I think that was one of your best. Now he thinks that's like his good luck charm.
Yeah. Welcome to another episode of Coaches on Couches.
Coaches on couches being slouches.
Today, we're going to talk a little bit about morning fueling. So some nutrition timing stuff, and we get a lot of questions about how much, what, and when to eat before workouts and races. So first off, shout-outs.
Shout-outs. We got a few of them.
Yeah.
First one, our St. Jude crew, as we call them.
The St. Jude crew.
The St. Jude relay crew went over to Nashville. Dr. James Downing.
Yep.
We got Lynn Wynn.
Yep.
We got Carlos
Rodriguez Galindo.
Galito. And, they knocked out first place in the relay. I coach Downing. Dale coaches the other two. Dr. Downing's on his way to the Record Challenge TT coming up in New Mexico. So this was sort of one of the final fine-tuning events for him, and he had a great ride. So
good.
Shout out to him and them. And then another coaching client of mine, Hart Robinson. You've heard it before.
He's back.
He's currently he's right now racing stage 3 of the Breck Epic Challenge out in Colorado.
Pretty epic.
A lot of stuff, 11,000 feet and above. He's doing it single speed this year. First 2 stages.
It takes some cojones.
Yes, it does. First 2 stages. He was on the podium for both, second place and third place. He's currently 27 seconds behind the second place guy. And I went back and was looking at data. He did it 2 years ago on a geared bike. And looking at stage 2, same course, both years, yesterday and from 2016, he was actually faster yesterday rolling single speed than he was a few years ago. So we were both pretty pumped about that. And
there you go. We got Cindy Lou Who. Cindy Clark, second. She's got on her second GC podium this season.
Bam! She's been working hard.
Yeah, been working hard, killing it, working through some things, and hitting the podiums now.
That's always good to see.
And then we got Frances Lawhead. Frances Lawhead, first overall female at the Miles to Melanoma 5K. She's always crushing it.
Yeah.
Not surprising.
She's a great
Not
athlete,
surprising.
too.
Coach Chris has got her dialed in.
Excellent. So there's our shout-outs for this week.
Yeah, the other big one is we want to say good luck to everybody traveling up to Cleveland this weekend for the Triathlon National Championships. I'm going up there myself, trucking the van up there with, I guess it'll be 4 of us in the van, but we've got a group of about 6, 7, 8, I don't know, there's a bunch of people going from this area. So if you are a Mid-South athlete going to Nationals, come hang out. Come find us. We'll be there all weekend.
Just look for the big BPC van.
Can't miss it.
And one of the tips we're going to talk about today, as far as pre-event or even pre-training meal timing, and some suggestions there, is going to relate just to this weekend.
Yeah,
so
we'll get there.
We'll dive into that a little bit.
Yeah. So when you're talking about nutrition time, we're talking about you get up in the morning and you've got a workout or a race. We get tons of questions on how much should I eat, what should I eat, when should I eat. The big thing that we have to lay on the ground here is that this is highly dependent on your stomach. Whatever you can process, digest, the types of foods that you like, it's highly individualized. So we can give you some basic guidelines, but if you are looking to really dial it in, give us a shout and we can hook you up with Coach Casey, and she'll walk you through it, help you dial it in based on your tastes, the type of sport intensity that you're doing. She can walk you through it. But these are just some basic guidelines on how we roll through it ourselves. So
And as we go through this, if you have certain stuff, I see we got 5 people watching, quite a few athletes on here, folks that train and race hard. We got Michael Lee on right now. He does some coaching as well. Feel free to post in comments what works for you, what you do, for either during or pre-race, pre-ride.
It's super
pre-training fueling. So, knowing suggestions, especially people that are more new to the sport or to the endurance world.
Yeah.
As they experiment, a lot of folks just want to know, what do other people do? What do other people use? So it's good to see what other people are using so you can experiment with it. But like Dale was saying, just know what works for me or what works for Coach Dale may not be best for you.
It's likely not.
And Dale will occasionally eat some. I need to find the picture of him
choice
eating
things before
a chicken
some races.
biscuit sandwich. I need to find that, and I'll try to throw it.
I think I was second that year.
I think that was one of your best. Now he thinks that's like his good luck charm.
Yeah, slam a gas station chicken biscuit.
I shake my head each time I see it.
Yeah, well, that's what the vegans do, man. They just look down on everybody who eats meat. So
all right.
The big things that you have to take into consideration when you're trying to put together your morning plan here. One of the big things is the duration of your event. Right.
Correct.
The other big thing is the intensity of the start of your event. So not necessarily the intensity of the event as a whole, but how intense is the start? Like, I would consider a half Ironman. The intensity of a swim start is not that much different than like an Olympic distance triathlon. So it's pretty intense. But once you get out of the water, or once you settle in the water, you get out of the water, everything kind of calms down and it's not quite as intense. So that's kind of an example as an intense start, but not really intense during. Or if you're talking about like criterium racing, where it's just boom, it goes, and it's easily the first 10 to 15 minutes of the race are just balls of the wall. There's no way you're going to eat or drink much of anything. You're just trying to hang on, and so those are the type of things as far as intensity of the start. We have to really consider that. On the opposite end is like a marathon, where you're going to hit the line and you're going to just kind of go right into your marathon pace. Which should be a very sustainable pace. It should be sustainable.
You should not get caught up in the excitement of the start and run your 5K split.
We
for
can
your
talk
first 2 miles.
pacing on another episode.
Exactly.
The other big thing is, how easy is it for you to consume calories, fluids, and stuff like that during the event? There are cases where you might be limited as to how much you can eat and drink. I mean, if you want to go outside of endurance sports, if you're talking football, soccer, all these sports where you're on the field and you don't just have fluids and everything just waiting for you all the time. Yeah. You're basically limited to the breaks to take in fluids and fuel. So, think about in your sport, like, how easy is it for you to actually consume fuel during? Yeah. So that's a big one.
Well, and something like for cycling and in road races, is there going to be a feed zone? Am I going to have neutral or actually someone in the feed zone? I mean, there's sometimes where you're planning for.
Will they be there?
Will they be there? Yeah. Will they find the? My wife was on. She may still be on. There was a time that we were doing a race and she was our feed zone person. Fortunately, we were going by twice. Yeah. But she got stuck behind our race and couldn't get around. Yeah. So the first time through the feed, there was no food. So if that's something you were planning on and it's gone, I mean, that could be a big situation.
What are the odds that somebody's going to attack through the feed zone?
Or if you're actually going to be able to grab it. There's people that miss feeds. So it's always good to be packing a little more than you can. But if you start dealing with, we have folks that, maybe in marathon training or during a marathon, may not be able to or want to or whatever carry the amount of calories that they would need in an ideal world. Yeah. So all things you kind of got to factor in.
Yeah. So the other things that we're talking about, well, let's just go over the differences in the durations and intensities of the start. So we're talking about long duration events, workouts, whatever, and easy starts.
Yep.
So long duration, easy starts.
And for long is obviously relative, but in our minds, it's typically, that 90-minute, 2-hour-ish mark and above is typically what we would consider, more on the long side, and stuff below that is what we will classify as more short.
Yeah, so if you've got a workout or a race that's 2 hours plus, easy start, you can most people can get away with eating their meal right up to the start, like anywhere from an hour before, even close, right up to the start. I've done it, there's several times when I have long rides and I'll just slam some food and go out the door. It's not a big deal because you're starting easy. There's not the effort, it's different if you live at the base of a mountain pass and
exactly.
You're going to go out and your long ride's going to be a 6-mile climb, right from the get-go. That's a whole other story. But, generally if it's long and easy, you can eat between 60 minutes and right up to the start of your race.
The key there is you got to know who's in control of the effort. Like, are you in control of how hard you're going to go, or is that sort of up in the air? Are you meeting with other people that maybe deciding that they want to take off from the start and you're going to get sucked into going a lot harder than you thought? Anytime it's going to be a race, I'll look at what the first kind of 4 or 5 miles look like, and I know if there's, a steeper hill at the start, the intensity at the start is going to be way high.
Yeah.
If it's a huge field and I've got a lot of teammates, then I don't need to be doing, if I'm more of a protected rider, I'm not going to need to do as much work early, so the intensity is not going to be quite as bad as it would be otherwise. So you got to kind of look at all the factors there.
If you're in triathlon or running, and you're just kind of going for your own best time, then you totally control your start.
Yeah.
If you're doing those sports and you are racing for the win, and somebody is either a better swimmer or in running, they may there's a little more strategy involved. You may have to go out. You may know that you have to go out a little harder to stay with that person. So those are kind of things you need to know as far as judging the intensity of the start. So long, easy, within 60 minutes is usually fine.
Yeah.
Long event, but intense. So again, the example here is somewhere in that Olympic and half iron distance triathlon where the swim starts usually still pretty intense, but overall effort of the event is not terribly intense. When if you're thinking about...
you're pacing yourself on this.
Yeah.
This is a paced event versus a responding to attacks like you'd have in cycling.
So if you know the event is going to be an intense start, but still pretty long, usually you want to time that out from 60 minutes to 2 hours prior to the event, getting in your morning meal, fuel, fluids, whatever.
And if you're someone with a sensitive stomach, you're going to have to go more on that 2 hour mark.
Yeah.
Someone who's got a very tolerant stomach can go closer to that 60 minute
If you're regular, you can hit it closer. If not, you got to take a little time.
Give it time to process.
Yeah. So 60 minutes to 2 hours prior, if it's longer and it's going to be intense. The other side is if it's short and it's easy start, you probably don't need any calories anyways.
That's like your recovery stuff you're doing.
Yeah.
If you're racing, typically you're not going to have short and easy.
Yeah.
If so, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
But,
so we'll
active recovery, a lighter training day.
Yeah.
Not going to need much fuel. You got plenty in your system.
Very aerobic. You're better off not eating and on a small scale working on your metabolic efficiency a little bit.
Yep.
The last one is short event, an intense start. That's where a lot of people can get into trouble because
the intensity of a short event is a lot more intense than the intensity of a much longer event. When someone has in the back of their mind that they got to go for 4 hours, they hold back. In general, that intensity is going to be a little different than something that's, say, 20 minutes long.
Yeah. Yeah, so, this is clearly like mile races, 5Ks, crits,
beer miles,
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if I'd go. I've done. It's you got to back down a little bit on the beer mile start, but anyways, you get the point. So so short and intense, you're looking at 2 hours plus. I mean, 3 hours even from the start time to let everything, all the calories process.
Yeah.
Get out whatever you don't need in there.
Yeah.
This is kind of, if we're talking about what to eat in this scenario, we usually recommend avoiding like high fat, high protein stuff and going more for easily digestible carbs and things that are even like something more similar to what you would eat during exercise. Yeah. So if you know it holds up fine during a training session, you're 99%.
Stick with that, yeah. And that's kind of a little more geared toward if you're racing at 7 a.m. or 8 a.m., 9 a.m. Once you start, there's evening crits that we do. Cyclists do. There'll be an evening crit where you have all day. You're obviously going to be eating meals.
Yeah.
And I've found it's really easy to get yourself into trouble if you eat something larger and heavy in the afternoon.
Yeah.
For me, I've got to have at least a 3-hour window leading into it. But the key is making sure you've been eating throughout the day so that you're not going into this, fasted or no energy.
Yeah.
We want you going into it with, the body being topped off and fueled up, but nothing sitting on your stomach that you're going to want to projectile vomitus out.
Yeah, and with evening races, you can go the opposite end too, and where you ate your lunch at noon, the race is going to be at like 7, but you didn't think about it and you dilly-dallied, or you had to travel to the race, and then all of a sudden now you're in that 2-hour window and you're starving, and so you have no choice but to get in some food, or you're just going to be totally flat for the race. Mm-hmm. In that case, if you're inside that 2 to 3 hour window, you really need to stick to like simple sugars and stuff that's going to process super fast, take the edge off, and still kind of buffer those glycogen stores.
And something I have to do personally, and again, this is all experimentation, how I've kind of figured out what works and what doesn't. If I do anything that's got too high of a sugar concentration, that's no good for me too close to an event. I had a mistake I made once, and I knew it wasn't good, but I needed calories in my body. It was between a road race and an evening time trial. It was a small window between the two.
Yeah.
I knew I needed some calories. I didn't have time to really get food in. I didn't plan properly and have something available to eat right after the race. So I went with the full gas Gatorade, as we call it. So the sugared calorie Gatorade, way too close to start time, and I was spitting that up on this very short, high intensity time trial. It was a 10-minute TT, and that was I was tasting that within probably 3 minutes maybe into the race. Not good for breathing.
Another thing that's
Side note,
apparently
not good for breathing.
really bad inside that window is Indian food.
Yeah. Yes, Indian food, not good at all. Too close to an event. So we got Greg Rohde. What's up, Rohde? One of the guys going to nationals. I heard it was a good idea to dial back your fiber intake 1 to 2 days prior to events. Does that hold true?
I mean, like,
I've never paid attention to dialing back fiber. A few days prior to events.
Like day of, morning of, for sure. But multiple days, I don't think it.
Just make sure you're drinking your water. Get your fluids in.
Yeah.
Keep things.
Keep the fluids and electrolytes
moving
coming
properly.
in. Yeah, I mean, then you should have no issues there. But I wouldn't necessarily back down anything more than the morning of or the day of. The fiber, there's really not, the big concern with like a lot of fibers is just how long it takes to digest. So it can upset people's stomach, but then again, so can a lot of other things.
Yeah.
Some of the forms of sugar. I mean, there's people out there that can't eat sports nutrition with maltodextrin in it, or like they don't do well with
like goos tear me up.
Any of the artificial sweeteners or something like that. I mean, there's all kinds of instances where your stomach or body just doesn't tolerate. I mean, I feel like I'm one of those people that kind of has an iron gut. Like I can
chicken biscuit.
Can eat. Yeah,
like we talked about that chicken biscuit earlier.
I can eat pretty much anything and go. If it's an easy workout, run, ride, whatever, pretty much eat and go out the door. I mean, it's not. I don't have a problem with a lot of different foods. There's foods I don't like, and I prefer not to eat them during just the consistency or the taste. But as far as choices, I got a lot of choices.
Jake Redfern just joined on. That was one of my friends from high school.
Whoa.
And college. Well, Redfern, what's happening?
Hey,
I think he got into running or track, one of the two.
Give us some stories.
Yeah.
Give us something.
No stories. All right.
So one of the big questions that we get, and we kind of went into this a little bit, is like, what if I like have no time? Like, what if I like get up and I have to get it in, or I just have no time? Our response to that is, that sounds like poor planning.
Yes, kind of like what I just said about not having stuff prepped or ready for post-race when I knew there was going to be a short turnaround time for my next event. That's poor planning.
So you either have to get up earlier and eat, or if it's in a case of an event, there's almost always travel to the event.
Yeah.
There's almost always a lot of times you think about start time. Think about your start time. Don't necessarily think about in the case of, and I'll just bring this up for this weekend for nationals. There will be some age groups that, the race may start at 7 or 8, but if they do it, and if it's a wave start, especially like in a giant marathon setting or something like that, where they have to roll through corrals, and there's thousands of people, the race may start at 8, but you may not start till 10 or 10:30. So take that into consideration. Find out when approximately you will start, and then time it out from there. Not necessarily, the race director says start time is at 8, so I got to eat at 6 in the morning.
We've had athletes who have had very, very bad races.
Oh yeah.
And they fell apart in the back third of it. And when we started diving into what did you eat beforehand, what did you eat between your meal and the start of the event, and then we find out, okay, it was actually they ended up having a 5-hour block where they didn't realize that they were going to be standing around for that long, or that they had to be there that early, or they got there a lot earlier than they thought. So, if you think about it on a regular day, like I may be different than most people, but I'm eating about every 3 hours.
Yeah, you're different than most people.
I'm probably different than most people. But for me, if I don't eat for 3 hours, and then now it's another 2 hours before my event starts, and then during my event I'm not going to be eating a normal meal.
Yeah,
I'm going to be angry.
Oh yeah,
hangry.
Yeah, and Bryant can't eat Snickers.
I can't eat Snickers. Not going anywhere for a while.
Yeah,
can't eat Snickers.
Like this is, it's a perfect example for the weekend. Like if you find that your age group is starting later. I guess I got the lucky. This is maybe the first time ever that I got lucky. My age group goes off first, so that's perfect time. I can just start it from start time, no problem. I know some of the guys are going with us. I mean, their age group is literally 2.5 hours later. So in that case, take your start time. So you may be eating on the way to the venue, and that's fine, because you still have that, 2.5 to 3 hour gap. That's, I have to laugh at people who, and we hear it all the time, that say they just don't have time to eat in the morning. Well, even if you're, even if you're driving to like the pool in the morning, you still have like the half an hour at least when you got up and you like got together, got your stuff together, drove to the pool. There's like at least a half an hour window, so you had time to get something in. And if it's in the case, especially with swimming, you don't need a lot. If anything, most people can get through an easier swim workout, like fasted in a fasted state. But if it's intense, go for the really easy.
Go for the stuff that you tolerate when you are doing higher intensity training.
Yeah.
Use that same fuel as your pre-fuel to make sure you just got the some sugars in the bloodstream. And
you got to plan ahead.
You're not gonna totally deplete yourself
with the amount that with the level that nutrition plays into your performance. Nutrition, hydration being fluid and electrolytes. The calories, fluid, and electrolytes, how heavily those play into your performance on any given day. If you don't plan for those things, that's like not planning. It's like not planning to bring your, people rarely forget their race wheels, but if you don't have the right amount of calories, you're going to perform underperform way more than those race wheels ever helped you.
Oh, by far.
So
some of the biggest, and ourselves included, some of the biggest, I guess you'd call it performance failures, have come from either getting so caught up in the race or not planning properly and totally exploding as a result. I think the biggest one for me ever was River Gorge. River Gorge is coming up end of this month. I'm not going to get to do it this year, but in my mind, I just had it set that all I had to do was get to mile 25 because I was going to get in the breakaway. I was going to get to the top of the big first climb, and then I was just going to kind of kick back and wait till the guy I was going to be working for Ben, and try to help him until the final climb. So in my mind, I was just thinking 25 miles, get in the break, ride hard, get to the top, and that's all I really prepped for. And then I was so caught up in this breakaway, and the breakaway was hard. I mean, I end up looking back. I think I almost died that day. Afterwards, it's the worst I've ever felt. I went to lunch with my sister and just like had my head down, and she thought I was going to die as well.
Yeah.
But looking back on it, I only had like 400 calories, barely drank a bottle up to that point. It was hot.
Yeah.
My numbers were essentially, it was harder than a crit for until that 25-mile mark or 30 miles, whatever it was. And I made every mistake in the book, and by the time Ben got to me, I was so depleted that I was useless. So I went from I saw him briefly, and the first hill after I saw him, I was gone. And it was all because, I didn't go into it with a proper plan, and the fueling was not where it needed to be, and my body just shut down.
Yeah, it happens.
And if this is like your big goal race...
Yeah.
And you've trained for 6 months. Some people train for, a year. You put an Ironman on the schedule a year from now, and you train for that. You've put in hours and hours and hours and hours of work. A lot of money has gone into it. Yeah. And to not take care of something that's totally in your control, you can't choose the weather, but you can make sure you're prepared with your training and also with your nutrition. So
it's I've heard way too many stories like that. People were spot on. I mean, I've had it happen to myself. Spot on to hit a goal, and then at some point the wheels just came off. Yeah. And when you dig back through things, it really just came down to, for me, it always came down to sodium replacement and
for sure.
Just falling apart because I had sodium levels drop.
All right, Dale, we're at 28 minutes.
Oh,
we're trying to keep these to right about 30.
All right, so real quick.
6 people are on. Any questions from the 6 awesome viewers? I guess I'm probably one of those.
Yeah, you're...
5 awesome viewers. So, if you have questions, holler.
If you have questions, post them up. We'll talk about real quick about calorie amount. So my personal belief is that most people who do long events, half full Ironmans, ultra running, century rides, all that kind of stuff, really underdo their pre-morning or pre-event meals. Like eat too few calories. Like talking, I'm like, what did you eat this morning? Like, well, I had a bowl of oatmeal and like a banana. Okay, that's like 300 calories tops. So you just put in 300 calories right before an event where you're going to burn thousands, upon thousands of calories. So in the event that it's going to be a long event and easy start, you need to have a pretty substantial pre-morning meal.
Mm-hmm. And you have to train that.
Yeah.
You do this same thing prior to your training rides that are of similar intensity and duration.
Right. And personally, I shoot for anywhere from 800 to 1,000 calories before a long course event or
That's
a long
like
course.
one chicken biscuit.
It's like
that's one gas station chicken biscuit.
But that's like the breakfast and then probably like another snack leading up to the start of the race. So, it's broken up into like almost 2 meals leading before. But, I'm going to be darn sure that when I start the race that my calories and glycogen stores are topped off and I'm not worried about it. So, you have to experiment with the calorie amounts that you can handle for the specific duration and intensity that you're doing. Our point here for the calorie amounts is that if you're doing a longer event, you've got to have a bigger pre-morning meal to really top off those calories. And it also helps make sure that you don't necessarily have to eat as much during, because you can't. Most people, they're lucky, like use triathlon as an example. Most people are super lucky to get in 350 calories on the bike and 200 calories an hour. 350 calories an hour on the bike and 200 calories an hour on the run, when you're likely burning somewhere between 800 and 1,000 calories an hour. That's a massive deficit. So if you don't have fuel in the tank, you're going to be in trouble at some point. And that's what happens to a lot of people. It's not necessarily fitness. It's just they run out of gas. Mm-hmm. So calorie amounts. Last point, so we can try to keep it as close to 30 as possible, is
3120.
Fluid and electrolytes. When you're doing your pre-morning stuff, make sure you are properly hydrating. We could talk hydration all day long. You have to have electrolytes. If you're going to do anything useful, almost anybody we can come in contact with, we recommend preloading electrolytes. And so all that really is 90 minutes before the start, you take in 16 to 32 ounces of a high sodium fluid, and that's just going to make sure that it gets in, has time to absorb. And now you kind of like that calorie buffer. Now you have a sodium buffer, because
you're filling the well, making sure the well's overflowing.
Because for most people, especially, well, I'll say in this heat, this time of year, most people are absolutely sweating more than they can conceivably consume. So I had an athlete of mine do a sweat rate test this morning on her long run, and she's been feeling kind of crappy and stuff like that. And lo and behold, she's got like a 2 liter an hour sweat rate.
Ooh.
So, and she was drinking like 20 ounces in an hour. So, or 20 ounces for the whole run.
Losing 64 an hour and drinking 20
she lost
total?
6 pounds, and she drank, so she lost 7 pounds if you consider the fluid.
Gotcha.
So 7 pounds in 1.25 hours.
Ooh.
So, or 3/4 hours. So over a little over 2 liters an hour. So that's, when you think if the average person can only drink a liter an hour, you're deficiting a liter of fluid an hour, and whatever sodium is in that fluid, you're deficiting that every hour. So you got to make sure that the buffer is there, and then obviously dial in your during plan as well. But if we're talking before, the best thing you can do is preload electrolytes. It just so happens that fluid comes with that. Preload the electrolytes, and the fluids will be balanced out. Don't necessarily think of your morning hydration as just water, just pounding water. Not good. All right. Make sure the morning fluids have electrolytes. That's my spiel.
Cool. I think that covers it.
Yeah.
I think we got through the whole whiteboard. The
Bam.
whole whiteboard got covered. We can erase it now. Any final questions before we take off?
5, 4.
We had Dan Applegate earlier say, my biggest factor is timing. No matter what I eat, allow for some transit time. Let that body absorb what goes in.
Yeah.
All right. Huey gives us a thumbs up. No, thumbs up to you, Huey.
All right, that's it.
That's all we got.
We'll catch you guys next week. If you have questions or things you want us to talk about, post them in the comments below, and we'll get to it. Have a good week. Adios.